Doesn't it boggle your mind, my dears, to imagine old Brazen, Duchess Brazen, trotting in there with a big wide smile. Oh, hello, Granny. Hello, Granny. We've missed you so much, as if nothing's happened, as if her shit don't stink. We see you, Duchess Brazen, we see you. And so does Her Majesty. Understand that. Understand that. Hello, folks. There's two things that seem to be troubling some of my viewers because you've been leaving messages infuriated. Why has the Queen agreed to host Meghan and Harry at Windsor Castle? Because they dropped in to see her yesterday, en route to the Invictus Games in The Hague. It said they met with the Queen, the Prince of Wales, but not Big Willie. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that very telling? But certainly with the Queen, the spokesman has confirmed. So those of you who are outraged seem to have that as a concern. Why? And secondly, you're troubled by the secrecy. It was shrouded in secrecy, not a whisper of it in the press until after it happened and there was an announcement. And you're saying, why was this? Why? I can only give you my view, my dears, and I've got to tell you, I'm actually quite delighted by some of these manoeuvres. I really am. Why? Well, on the subject of secrecy, everything shrouded in secrecy, to be honest, they ain't working royals. They're not officials. We don't need to know their schedule. We don't need some fanfare. And to be honest, if they had given some fanfare to defend the Harkles, people would have had a problem with that. The same people who are moaning about this would have had the same problem with them announcing it. Why do they have to tell us? Because you can't please all the people all of the time, can you? So, I'm not going to dig about for things to offend me on this occasion. I'm delighted we didn't hear or see them on our fair shores. I don't want them associated with this country. If they've gone off to Hollywood, have it. I wish they'd stick in Hollywood. But, become these mega movie stars, do whatever they want to do, my dear, but don't do it under the Queen's name. Now, as for everyone's second criticism, which is the Queen herself, why did she allow them into the fold? This is a 96-year-old monarch who loves her grandson, and she ain't there for the drama, my dear. Lots of us might like some of the drama and sipping a bit of the tea, but this is Her Majesty. She's got other things to expend her energy on, putting one foot in front of the other and hobbling around the castle, poor gal. She's really got other things to worry about than the drama. That's just not in her nature, and it's why she's such a magnificent sovereign, because she embodies goodwill, bonhomie, and a touch of the old noblesse oblige, She understands, we'll talk about Meghan in a minute, but she understands that venting some kind of fury on her grandson and freezing him out in every possible way is only going to be more damaging, more destructive, but also it wouldn't be any of her instinct to behave in such a way. She is a Christian woman. Let's not forget this is Easter week, and she is, I wouldn't go so far to say devout in her religion, but as a regular churchgoer, as defender of the faith, she is a woman of deep faith and believes in the tenets of the Christian religion: compassion, forgiveness, redemption, understanding, all this kind of thing. So that's always at the forefront of her mind. Always. As you know, Harry did meet with the Queen last year during the time of Diana's memorial, when that was unveiled. He had a short meeting with her then. But Meghan has not met with the Queen for 2 years. And in that time, how can I restrain myself here? The whole incident with the Oprah debacle, which is the main reason why I sprang up with this channel, because that crossed the line for me. Both Harry and Meghan, with Harry worse than her because he is related to the family he damaged. When they did that, the line was crossed, my dear. It is a reflection of the royal spirit and Her Majesty's compassion and good graces that the Montecito has been allowed back within castle walls to breathe the same air as Her Majesty. Because if that girl had any nous whatsoever, any understanding of the crass behaviour that she displayed over the past year, together with her husband washing their dirty linen on a chat show for all to see, as we're coming up to Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee year, if she had any understanding of what she had done, should be walking into that castle, actually should be crawling into that castle, begging to kiss the feet of Her Majesty for forgiveness for her behaviour. It's truly astonishing that she's got the gall and the gumption to come face to face with Her Majesty. If she's got such a huge amount of respect for the Queen, why on earth did she not think to ask permission to speak on the subject of the Queen's family before she took it to a national cable show? Why? And yes, it is rather galling when you see this gal talking about, oh yes, we Zoom all the time. We Zoom with Her Majesty and we have calls and, probably show her little Lilibet on camera and, oh yes, we have a nice time. It makes you sick, doesn't it? Because you think, why would you be having this jolly holiday with Her Majesty? Why aren't you crawling there for forgiveness? The Queen is too old to get into these kind of petty dramas. I'm just going to speak bluntly. She's too old. If she were 76, it might be a different question. 86, 96, no. And I'm not saying that 96-year-olds aren't capable, because Her Majesty's more capable than most 16-year-olds. I'm saying there are different ways that 96-year-olds expend their energy. And this kind of drama is not one of them. The Prince of Wales is a different kettle of fish. Prince Charles is much happier to display his displeasure and fury at his son. I've got a little fantasy of Camilla taking both of the Harkles aside at Windsor Castle, grabbing them by the scruff of the neck, clouting them both, and telling them what a pair of brazen snappers they both are. Do it, Camilla, do it. We're all susceptible to the frailties of the human mind, of the human condition, the human personality, but Her Majesty really is a very pure woman at heart, and because she hasn't experienced the kind of malicious feelings that those Harkle kids do, I call them kids because of their maturity, because she doesn't experience those kind of feelings, those tantrums, those jealousies, those elements of mischief, because she hasn't experienced them on the sort of profound level that those two do. It must be easier for her to take the upper hand and receive them with grace. And if it's true that William didn't join them on this occasion, well, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? Speaks volumes about the relationship. A parent has a duty to be there and continue trying to work with the relationship. A brother, less so. And I don't think it's fair to surmise that if they were on good terms by now, then Prince William would have made an effort, at least spent a few minutes in his brother's company. But by all accounts, it looks like that didn't happen. So it certainly looks to me that there's no rush to embrace little bro back into the fold, no rush at all. And one major reason is always going to be because his beloved wife, Catherine, was besmirched by the brazen wife. Besmirched. You don't do that! Not to our Queen in waiting! Do you hear? Brazen pair. You don't drag our Queen in waiting onto some episode of Jerry Springer for the world to see. She made me cry. Are you kidding me? Our Queen in waiting? Fair Catherine? And yes, I might seem incensed, might seem melodramatic, but ladies and gents, is this not gutter snipe behaviour? Are you really going to disagree with me? You become a duchess, or you are a duke, and that is how you choose to portray yourself and your family? By going on the equivalent of Jerry Springer and having it with all the family dramas? Petty dramas, when you're supposed to be the ambassador to the Commonwealth? Really. What a fucking liberty. The Queen understands that Meghan's behaviour is entirely crass. But she also understands, and this is something that I think some people don't get, that Meghan does not see that. She doesn't understand her vulgarity. She's been so sort of coddled throughout her life and enabled throughout her childhood and beyond that she has a kind of saviour complex. And what we see as crass, she sees as class. She thinks she is the epitome of class. The Queen knows she isn't, but because the Queen is the epitome of class, she's not going to come down like a ton of bricks on the crass. You know what I mean? This is a part of noblesse oblige, and the Queen's duty to oversee those beneath her status, which means oftentimes having patience that the rest of us might not really have. Truth is stranger than fiction, and it would take a mind with the most fertile imagination known, with added fertilizer on top of this nonsense on stilts. It would take such a creative mind to come up with a more crass scenario than these two who have damaged a 70-year reign and a monarchy, the reputation of a monarchy that goes back millennia, the brazen cheek to walk into that Windsor Castle without first giving a public apology for their behaviour and the damage that they did to, an innocent queen coming to the end of her reign in her twilight years, damaging the reputation of the Commonwealth, the Queen's life work, and Prince Philip's contribution as well, in his dying days, running roughshod over that, all of that, and then just swanning back into the castle as if nothing's happened. And, I hesitate to use the words taking advantage. I'm not there, I'm not a fly on the wall, so I can't see. I haven't been witness to these Zoom calls with Her Majesty that they claim they have. But, there is an advantage that they can take over Her Majesty when it comes to Her Majesty's age. Because now she's of that age and she's rather fragile, then it's much easier to sort of tiptoe around the white elephant in the room. Do you know what I mean? Whereas with Charles and Camilla, no, that would have to be addressed. With William and Catherine, that would certainly have to be addressed. But with Her Majesty there to temper anything coming from Charles and Camilla, meeting them both together, that's going to temper what's said in Her Majesty's company, because they're not going to have those more controversial discussions while Her Majesty's present, are they? But, in fiction, Lady and the Tramp are two dogs that live together in harmony, and they're both gorgeous creatures. In real life, and with human beings, ladies don't associate with tramps. And the Queen is a lady. Okay? So, enough said. The Queen is a lady. She was born a lady, and she'll die a lady. And I'm not talking about some title. I'm talking about she's a lady in her heart and soul. So nobody knows what went on in the confines of the meeting yesterday within those four walls. Nobody does. And I would imagine that an apology is unlikely. But in my view, that should have been the first port of call as soon as they walked through those doors, to make a joint apology to the Queen and then somehow announce publicly that they'd done so. Without that, I'm sorry. Trash. Her Majesty turns 96 next week, and aren't we lucky? 96 years old. So we're looking forward to that. Sadly, it looks like she won't be able to attend the Easter service, the annual Easter service, which is very sad. Charles and Camilla will be attending in her place, as they did for the Royal Maundy Service, which was really lovely. Camilla looked splendid in blue and white, really gorgeous, and Charles looked very dapper. He's lost some of his vitality lately around the eyes. Have you noticed? They always look a bit bleary. Probably all that COVID he's been suffering from. A bit bleary. Some have suggested and implied that and the ruddiness of his face is down to the odd tipple in the evening. Some have suggested he's got gout, I think, because his rather large hands can be sausagey. I don't know if it affects the hands. I know it affects the ankles, doesn't it, gout? But there are those who make certain whispers in that direction, so I'm not going to get into that. But they looked gorgeous. Prince Charles handsome in his blue tie, Easter blues. The nosegays that they were given were really gorgeous in yellow and purple, I think, yellow and mauve. We love a nosegay. And yes, they doled out the Maundy money, making up coinage to the amount of 96 pence. There were some jolly photos of the little school children, the kids, and I'm about to criticise. Now don't get it twisted, I'm not criticising the kids themselves. It's nothing to do with them, it's not their fault. But oh my dear, I'm aghast at the school uniforms of these days. I ask you, is that what they come up with? You know, there was a time when school uniforms were smart. Where you'd take a sense of pride in the uniforms. I mean, for one thing, I can't bear schools that are uniform free. They say, oh, let their personalities shine, you know, don't restrict them. Well, they can work on their personalities more if you start with a neutral base where everybody is equal and clothes aren't compared with each other's. Budgets, the household budgets, aren't compared with each other. And the personality in those very tender years does not have to be expressed through amethyst crowns and silk scarves and all kinds of accoutrements. There's a time for that, most certainly. But school, I don't believe, is the time for that. If you want to develop your personality, then express yourself through the mind at that age and be taught to express yourself through the mind and through their interactions and relationships. There's no need for no uniforms. I'm digressing, but the uniforms that there are right now, most of them are so sloppy. Have you seen these casuals? And this is, even in the company of royalty, at royal services, these sort of sloppy sweatshirts. I don't know what it's like abroad, but over the years and decades it's got worse and worse here. They used to be gorgeous things. It was lovely to see groups of school kids all together in their blues, their greens, their maroons, burgundies, yellows, to separate them, school from school. And they were smart. And underneath the school jumper we had and yes, it's a funny thing, all us Brits that YouTube, we get a sort of instinct and a habit for translating our words such as jumper, because otherwise you get 600 comments saying, oh, in America jumper means a kind of dress, or that's a strange. So you do get in. I know it's annoying for some people to caveat, but you find that it stops a lot of comments that you otherwise get. So yes, in England we call sweaters jumpers. I know you have jumper dresses abroad, but there used to be lovely school jumpers. Now they're these kind of sweater things or baggy sort of sackcloths that they wear. Almost like little tracky numbers. The socks are always at different lengths on the gals, even girls from the same school. Socks halfway down the ankles, up the leg. I've seen schoolgirls on the bus with their skirts riding right up their batties. Vulgar. And sometimes I do blame the parents for that kind of thing. But in days gone by, I'd have a smartly pressed, starched shirt, white shirt, buttoned up with a tie, a school tie, and then a lovely jumper over the top to keep you warm, or a blazer, and trousers to cover the legs until high summer, where you'd have smart shorts, not these kind of Bermuda affair. It's just part of this dumbing down of sophistication in society, I'm afraid. No. But isn't it lovely to see the magical effect of royalty? You can see the enchantment on the little boy's face, the schoolboy's face, to see this lady enraptured there by royalty. Royalty does have a magical effect. It really does. And we think that sometimes that it might be limited to the Queen, but I think we shall see when Charles ascends the throne that sprinkling of magic will have an effect. It will still have an effect, my dears. I'm encouraged to see. The royal family did share a picture of a Royal Maundy Service gone by, and there was a picture of Her Majesty. I've got to tell you, it's rare that I'll criticise Her Maj, but that hat she was wearing looks absolutely revolting. What the hell was she thinking? When I look back on pictures of Her Majesty, obviously knowing that fashions come and go, trends come and go, what she wore was of the moment. She really did have a few sort of disasters. Obviously Angela Kelly's influence had a great effect on her, but thinking on it, I really do think her great age for style has been more or less her dotage years, or let's say 80s and 90s. I really do think that she really puts her foot out of place, and she knows exactly what suits her now, what looks great. And it compares very favourably to her frocks even in her 70s. When she was in her 70s and 60s, she hadn't quite got the hang of what really, really suits her, be it the cuts, the styles, the colour, It is really, really intrinsic and instinctive to her now, with the help, of course, of Angela Kelly. And it continues to show that age is no barrier to beauty, glamour and style whatsoever. Speaking of Easter, I continue to be channeling the Easter spirit, hence I'm afraid, for those of you who don't really like these crowns, because they look a bit papery, don't they? But I wanted to give this mauve lilac one an airing. I'll probably chuck it away afterwards. I know it's not as regal as my metal crowns, but hey, it goes well with the colouring today, doesn't it? And I thought I'd colour block the whole arrangement, even if it looks a bit papal. So it's just a bit of fun, my dear. I'm in a fun mood for Easter. Now I've got that bit of ranting over the way. You know, it should be a jolly time Easter week, and the weather's really, really lovely today. I've got some Easter chocolates on display. Just so you know, I'm not making recommendations or advertising. It's just to sort of decorate the look. These are by Charbonnel and Walker, the Queen's favourite chocolatiers. It's an assortment of milk and dark chocolates. I'm not going to break into them because I'm really trying to be good with sugar these days, but it's for Mummy and Daddy. Well, it's for Mummy and Daddy, but let's face it, Mother is the one that's going to eat all of them. Daddy won't bother, but Mother will enjoy it. So yeah, just my little offering for them. There's been a new unveiling at the Tower of London. It's quite exciting, actually. I think it looks lovely. It is a globe, the Commonwealth of Nations Globe, which is going to be on public display for 7 weeks in the White Tower. And isn't it absolutely divine? So gorgeous. It actually made me quite excited. Mind you, everything looks good when it's presented on a velvet cushion, doesn't it? You could put just about anything on a velvet cushion and it would excite. And this is the size of a bowling ball, this globe. And it's sat on the silver crown. And it features various stones that have been collected from the 4 highest peaks in the United Kingdom. Scafell Pike, Ben Nevis, Snowdon and Slieve Donard. 2 fragments from each of those peaks have been incorporated into the base of the crown. Before it was unveiled, it was paraded through the grounds with a 70-piece military band with pipers and buglers and all the pomp and circumstance. And why did they create this? Well, it's part of a sort of hush-hush plan for the 2nd of June, because in the kingdom here we're going to have a 4-day bank holiday to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee. So that's coming up very soon. And there will be a ceremonial lighting of the Platinum Jubilee beacons. That evening, over 2,000 of these beacons are going to be lit in towns and villages and cities all throughout the kingdom and in 54 Commonwealth capitals in celebration. What an absolutely lovely gesture. And this globe is going to be used in the lighting of the principal beacon, which is going to involve a senior member of the royal family, but nobody knows who yet. It's a very tightly guarded secret. The globe's going to be lifted out of the crown in some magical way as part of this ceremony. And it's been designed to symbolise all 4 of Her Majesty's Jubilees in this unprecedented event. A Platinum Jubilee, ne'er done before. Ne'er. To celebrate 70 years on the throne. So as part of this crown, there is gold, silver, diamond and platinum to symbolise all 4 of those Jubilees. And the Queen has a pageant master. You see, this is a real pageant, my dear. You know, we're not talking beauty catwalk shows. This is a real pageant. She has a pageant master, Bruno Peake. And he described it as beautifully made, totally unique. He said, I don't think people realise. I don't think they have realised that this is the last Jubilee we will see for many years. It is one of the most important this nation has ever celebrated. And, you know, might be the last. It might be the last public celebration of a Jubilee. So what a way to go out if it is. Thanks for popping in, everybody. Hope you have a lovely weekend. I might be back over the weekend. We'll see. Got Easter Day, haven't we, on Sunday, so I'll be with family then. But the Harkles are in Never Never Land now, aren't they? So Mejan will be making an appearance, I'm sure. If there's anything worth popping in and chatting with you about, then I'll do so. But we'll see what happens. We shall see, my dears. Thank you so much for dropping by. Have a glorious weekend, whatever you're up to. Stay royal at all times. Thanks to those of you who have left a tip in my tip jar. You're very sweet, and I'll probably treat myself to some Easter goodies. Maybe a slice of simnel cake. I've seen a nice homemade simnel cake going around the corner, so maybe I'll treat myself to a slice of that with a nice cup of tea for Easter morning. That'll be lovely. Thank you, lovelies. See you soon, and toodle pip.